Now, our discussion is going to begin with some discussion of religion, since nearly all the world's great religions are represented in our group. But first, let me introduce to you the guest. Here is Philip de Vargas from Switzerland. Philip, however, was born in China, near Peking, I believe, Philip, weren't you?
Oh, yes.
Where his father was a professor at a missionary university. This is Matani Mojadara. Matani is 16 years old. She comes from Thailand and seems to be starting a Forum family dynasty because her older sister, Myra, was the delegate from Thailand 3 years ago, and this year Matani won. From Pakistan, Rasul Nizam. He comes from East Pakistan. And from India, Vangala Ram. Ram's just been up at Yale University this afternoon and was delighted to find 4 or 5 of his father's books in the Yale University library. To open the discussion, I suppose we should start, first of all, with asking each of you to tell us what the main tenets of your religion are. Would you start, Rasul?
Yeah. Islam is not a religion as the word is defined by an English dictionary. Islam is a definite way of life, social, political, and moral. And in Islam we believe in the oneness of God, and all are equal before God. It is not only a mode of worship. And we also believe in a holy book called Quran, as you have your Bible, the Christianity has. It's quite similar to Christianity. And nobody has any preference from God in our religion. All are equal, as I told you before. And in social sphere, everyone is equal. And especially in mosques, all are equal. They pray together. The servant, the ruler, the poor, the rich, all are together in the mosque. They don't have any special seat. And at the time of pilgrimage at Mecca, all are supposed to put on a special dress, a cheap dress, so that they all look alike, so that they don't look like rich or poor, like that.
Is it true, Rasul, that you memorized the Quran?
Yeah.
It's a pretty thick book. Have you memorized some of it?
Oh yes, I memorized half only.
Half of it? Are you going to go on with the rest of it?
Yes, I must go through it.
Now, Tina, tell us about Buddhism.
Well, Buddhism, our state religion, teaches us to be passive and live contented in what we have, we be, or we do. It is a religion without a God, but we have a belief in the transmigration, by which life is, every life, be divine or human or animal, is only reckoned as a phase of a, cycle of innumerable regeneration.
The transmigration, in other words, you go through many different lives as you seek to reach what?
And the belief of the virtue of the action, that every good or bad deed is reckoned to involve an appropriate consequence in the present or in the future life. It has no right, no sacrament, no formula.
Very different in that from the Christian religion then. How about Hinduism, Rob?
This aspect of Buddhism which you mentioned just now is common, the transmigration of soul. Hinduism is the oldest religion in the world, and incidentally it is also the mother of one of the biggest religions in the world, Buddhism. Buddhism having been born in India about 600 BC. The main feature about Hinduism is that it is assimilative, it is elastic, and it has changed with the changing circumstances. It is all comprehensive, and it includes every facet of life. And the ultimate object of a Hindu is to attain the oneness with the reality, with the truth itself, and not necessarily with a God. The God is a means, the reality and the truth is the end. That, I think, is a fundamental difference between Hinduism and the other religions.
There are concepts that are difficult sometimes for us to grasp. You agree that it's a very complex and difficult religion. But we'll get more of it from you, I'm sure, in the course of a discussion, because it's made you what you are. Philip, since you are a Christian, and we are familiar with Christianity, why don't you tell us why you're a Christian?
Well, I think I'm a Christian mainly because I think it is that religion which brings men nearest to God. I think that Christianity is the only religion on earth in which the Son of God himself has come onto earth to bring salvation to his people. I'd also say that Christianity is my religion because it is the most active. It is the most direct. To take an example, Confucianism would say says in its book, do not do to the others what you do not want them to do to you. But Christianity says, do to the others what you want them to do to you.
Just a minute, Philip. You said that Christianity is that religion which brings you nearest to God. Have you read the other religions, incidentally? I mean...
Yes, I have.
You have.
I'm sorry to say I do not know as much of the other religions as I should, perhaps, but nevertheless I have some notions.
No, you spoke from a comparative point of view, I mean, of bringing the nearness to God itself. I mean, you said the Son of God was born.
Yes.
But in other religions, sometimes the reincarnation of God itself has been there. As in Hinduism, we find God himself was born. What do
We've
you say to
already
that?
got different points of view
Yes,
on this.
already.
Why don't you go ahead and finish, Philip, and then we'll come back.
Well, I'd say that I wonder, I'd like to ask you the question, I do not say it's a fact, but I wonder if the fact that Christianity looks forward more than other religions, because many religions of China, to take an example, are based on the past, on the sacrifices to the ancestors, whereas the Christian religion looks towards the return of Christ on earth. And I wonder if that fact, the fact that Christianity looks forward, does not explain partially the fact that just now it is the Christian countries over the world who seem to have the leadership. I would like to know what you think of that.
Well, that is simply because the question of deciding whether you rank the material values to be higher than the spiritual values, in the sense that in the other religions, the material values have been very low in the hierarchy, and they in fact sometimes imply the negation of the material values. For example, one of the customs of the Hindus is to drop milk in the holy river at one time in the year. Now that is definitely a negation of the material value, and therefore we are not materially advanced. In what sense do you mean advanced?
Well, you think, if I understand what you mean, you say that if one country is a leader, it is simply due to material facts.
Yes.
Don't you think that the ideas of the people in that country have some importance, and that the religion can have some influence on the ways of life and hence on the acts of those people?
No, but what is the criterion in determining which is more advanced? I mean,
Well, I
did
think
not,
excuse me, I don't think Philip said more advanced. My understanding is there any relationship between the way of life in East and West and the dominant religions in those two areas? Is that what you're asking, Philip?
Well, yes. That was part of it. At least I was rather
I
saying
agree with that part of it.
Well, you see, I was wondering why just now it is the Christian countries mostly which are the leaders in the world just now. Well, you see, to take an example, India is playing just now a rather passive role, whereas America, to take an example, is one of the leaders.
Leaders
I was
in
wondering,
what sense? I mean, leaders in what?
Leaders-
Spiritual leaders or?
No, I was not speaking of spiritual leaders. I was speaking rather of the political leaders. But I think that there is an influence between the spiritual ideas and the political acts. That is why I was wondering if there could be some link between those two things.
Well, I think that really there is no scale by which you can judge any leadership at all or any degree of advancement. That is entirely a subjective determination, and in that sense it must be hypothetical.
Rasul, would you, representing Islam, buy Philip's statement or implied statement?
Yes, like in my religion, people of my country, Pakistan, they're very religious-minded. Well, you can never imagine if you don't go to Pakistan. For instance, like communism is spreading in Southeast Asia like anything, but communism could not make any headway in Pakistan because Pakistani people are very religious-minded.
How do you prove that your people don't have a kind of appreciate in communism? How do you prove that everybody has that kind of mind?
Oh yes, because people, I tell you, people are in my country are very religious-minded, and like communism, what is the basis of communism? There's a denial of God. And in my religion, in Islam, we believe in the oneness of God. And communism can never influence people. Yes, we have that fear, but not for the time being. We're quite happy, but yet we are educating the people because almost all the people are illiterate. But I know that for the present, I mean, for about 50 years, communism can never influence our people. They're very religious-minded.
All right, Philip.
Rasul, you said that, well, one of the bases of your religion was equality between the people. You said that the king would worship at the side of his servant. That is perhaps true. I'm sure it is true in the mosque, but is it true in the everyday life? There are tremendous differences in the fortunes of the people in your country. Some are very rich, others are very poor. If you really want equality, I'd like to ask you why the rich would not give to the poor.
No, in our religion, according to our religion, we have certain time, like we have the zakat system, we help the poor. And we agree that, we admit that we are not what you call equally true, I mean, in social life. Just spiritually, we are all equal. I agree that, I admit that, we got to admit that. But we are progressing, and we hope one day all of us will be equal.
But excuse me, go ahead, Matani.
But you cannot say that your people do not appreciate communism, because you have the poorest people. Then this is the chance for the communists to show their propaganda that we'll give you food and quicker than you get from your rich people. And that's the way the communists show their propaganda. If, for example, in China, they have God, they believe in God, some of them are religious too.
No.
Yes, but in my country, you know, the people are very religious-minded. I mean, I cannot explain to you. It's very hard. I mean, it's strange to the Western world and especially to other countries too. People are very religious-minded, and I mean, they believe in the oneness of God actually. Before they believe in the oneness of God. And communism, I mean, the very first law. I mean, they say they don't believe in God. That's an individual concern. So people they rather die than to accept communism.
Maybe Ram can clarify this a little bit more. He comes from a neighboring country to you, Rasul.
Yes, I think the same factors operate here in India too. But Mathani, your point is this. You see, you said that it is true that theoretically communism will thrive where you have a conspiracy of poverty and illiteracy. That's right. But due to the operation of the religion, due to the important role that religion plays in the lives of the people in India and Pakistan, for instance, equating religion with faith, communism can't spread. Because for communism to spread, besides poverty and illiteracy, you also require an atmosphere of rebellion, an atmosphere of discontentedness, an atmosphere of challenge, an atmosphere which will defy. Now, but our religion teaches us that what we have is what we deserve. And so that an average Indian, average Hindu would look upon his miserable plight not as the result of social forces, but as a result of more divine forces, something which he has been given, something which he deserves and must not rebel against and cannot.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think that's very interesting what you say there. You say that the people in your country think that their situation is simply what they deserve.
That's right.
Don't you think that that is a very great obstacle towards all progress?
That's true, material progress. That's right, it is very regressive. But on the other hand, it will prove to be an obstacle to the spread of communism.
Yes, that's true.
We are discussing the communism aspect of it.
Would you say that the communists fear your religion more or less than they fear Christianity? We know what they do to the Christian church.
I think that they fear all religion, whether it is Hinduism or Christianity, because they'll fear any institution of social control which will operate against communism.
Do you think that's true for Buddhism, Matani?
I don't think so, because Buddhism teaches people to be contented, not to quarrel with anybody. I mean, not to fight. We never fight for anything. So we just stay in passive, and we never suffer for anything. So I think this is the easy way for communists to enter my country, but not for. We are not afraid of the starving, or you call.
Is there a real fear in Thailand of the threat of communism?
Not for the food, because our country is fertile, but for the government, we are fear.
You fear that they may come down from...
Yes.
Well, what do you think is the best way to prevent that? If your religion won't prevent communism coming in, what is the answer in a country like Thailand for preventing the spread of communism?
See, that's a hard question. But I think now you have to prevent in Indochina first, because there's a, what do you call, the country before my country, that they are fighting now. The natives are fighting against the French because they don't have freedom. they are not willing to be communists, but because they want their independence, so they just, this is the chance for communists to give, to show their propaganda that if you are in my side, I give you food, I will give you armament.
Do you think we've been making any headway, nations of the West? We all want to prevent communism from spreading in Asia, as you want us to, I'm sure. Do you think we've been doing a good job in the last 3 or 4 years?
I think it's not enough for the last 2 weeks. You prevent more armies, more, what do you call, machine, more things, and you wreck the, what do you call, you don't care about the economic. But not so much as, I think what you have done is lopsided.
Well, tell us why. That's interesting.
That you prevent armies, tanks, atomic bombs, but don't care about the economic very much.
Is that true in India?
No, that's not true. In India, you have been given essentially economic aid, and you have not been giving military aid, perhaps because we don't want military aid. And but there's one thing which is very interesting. While it is true that communism must spread where we have poverty and where we have illiteracy, now I emphasize the second one. It seems to be that communism seems to spread only where there is education. I'll tell you a very interesting correlation. In India, we have about 70% illiteracy, and on the whole in India, communism is not at all prevalent. But take one state. In one state, Travancore, we have 100% literacy, 99.8 or something of that sort. And there you have 90% people are communists. So that you have a correlationship between the educated people and the communists.
Is that true in the Middle East and in Islam, would you say, Rasul, that it's the educated people who turn communist, if any do?
No, not the educated people. The illiterate people mostly, but not in our country, because we have the fear, and that's why we are going to make the people, literate by introducing schools and colleges. We have the fear, but at present we don't have the fear, because especially in Asia, religion has more grip on has more influence on the people than legislation.
Let me ask you this, since you represent so many different religions and yet have things in common, do you think it would be a good thing if all the people in the world believed in one religion?
I think so. That's a good idea. Otherwise, Pakistan would not have been separated from India.
Well, should we all be Muslims?
We should have one common religion for all.
Well, what would it
one
be?
religion.
Islam?
Not Islam. We should, choose all the good, all the important points of all the religions and make one religion. And
how can anybody has the same religion? Because everybody has different belief. They should choose their own religion. But every religion teach everybody to be good. Let's not make war over religion.
But we have the fundamental...
Because every religion teach people to be good, to love their neighbor, do not make enemies.
That's a Buddhist point of view, certainly.
Yes, and especially Buddhism teaches us to be contented.
Well, I think that what Rasul was saying is not very practical, let us say, because what religion would we choose? I think that all of us, well, we Christians, we know what we want, and we do not want to give away many of our most important points. You are the same, and that's quite normal. I think that it's a bit too idealistic to want to have one religion over the whole world. But I think what we can do is to have a federation of the different religions. Well, to take an example, I think we should form what we could call a sort of body. In the body there are different parts, and they play different roles. My hand does not play the same role as my foot. Nevertheless, they are united. It is the same thing, I think, for religions. Some of your religions answer certain needs. Other religions answer others. But I think that if we have unity of action, then it would be quite good, without having unity in everything, because that is impossible.
Philip, you're trying to use a political principle into religion, and that can't work. In politics you have federations, but I never heard of federations in religion,
well,
and I just think it won't work.
That's where you are wrong, because there is a federation of all the Christian churches, even though they are very different one from the other. I do not see why that would be impossible on the whole world, owing to the fact that the basic facts on each religion are the same.
Actually, Mrs. Waller, to revert to your former question, should there be a common religion for the whole world, is a contradiction in terms. Because Because religion means that there is just one religion. Every follower of one religion believes that that's the only religion. Because otherwise you wouldn't believe in it. And all religion has a fundamental aim which is common. And since the aim is common, all religion is one. And therefore these differences are just, I believe, a difference in nomenclature.
But as a Hindu, you could scarcely ever be anything else, could you?
Well, as a Hindu, you could be a Hindu, and which includes, I suppose, all other religions. All other religions being just a stage in Hinduism, I suppose.
Well, since you're all students, let's go to one other step in this matter of religion. Could you tell us in your countries what role, if any, the church plays in education? I know it's different in nearly every country. How about Switzerland?
Well, it does not play a very big role. Naturally, there are Catholic schools. There are also some Protestant schools, but there are not many of them, I must say. And it does not play. The church does not play a prevalent role in.
Would you say there's as much religious tolerance in Switzerland as there is in the United States?
Oh, I'd say there is even more, because that is due perhaps to the fact that in Switzerland everybody is part of one minority. Either part of we speak 4 different languages, and either one is part of a linguistic minority, either part of a cultural minority, either part of minority, ethnic minority, and that is why I think we have a great understanding for the other minorities, and nobody tries to oppress the other groups.
I'm sure an American student on the program would challenge you, saying that there is more religious tolerance in Switzerland than there is in the United States. But let's go on and get a point of view from your countries. Is the church, what is the extent of the church in education?
I don't know in what stage of history you're referring to, because most of these 4,000 years of our history, 4,000 years.
Well, right now, today, Ram.
Well, now it is that it has disintegrated. I mean, the old system, where the Brahman, that's one of the castes, the first caste, had the function of teaching to the others, and therefore our literacy standards were very high. And because the father is to teach the son, or they is to be sent to a boarding school, which is not exactly a school, but with a teacher, with the Brahman, and live with him and then come back. And that, you see, gave a very good development of personality. But that chance disintegrated, so that now we have high literacy because we have neither taken to the Western standards and have done away with our old traditional method of education.
Like in our country, we have every boy and girl at the age of 5, they're supposed to learn about the religion. They're being taught by their parents, then they're being sent to schools. In schools, like in public schools, we have some special periods to learn religions. But there are some schools, they only teach you about religion. That's one point why the people of Pakistan are quite religious-minded.
About our country, the first education the people have is from the temple, from the priest, that before we change the government into constitutional monarchy, we have absolute monarchy, which women didn't have equal right to men, and only boys go to temples to study from the priest, and that's the first education they have. And
But now
we have compulsory education, that we have public school for poor people, for children. Everybody has to go to school and finish primary school, primary school.
it would interest, I think, everybody to know whether Americans are more or less religious than you thought they were going to be when you came here.
Well, frankly, before coming, I thought that the Americans were far less religious than they are. After coming here, I noticed that every family does go to the church every Sunday, and the students are keenly interested in the Bible, which even among the Hindus, people are also interested in the Ramayana, our Bible. And this, I think, is, yes, they are far more religious than I expected them to be.
Is it, you've been in both public and private schools. Is religious influence the same, would you say?
Well, in the public schools for the student, it comes more through the family. In the private school, it comes through the school. They have a period of compulsory chapel, which they don't have in the public schools.
By the way, I think that that Christianity of America is a very good guarantee for that country. Because I think that as long as a country stays strong in one religion, I do not mind so much what religion it is, as long as it is one religion, well, that is a very good guarantee. And that country will probably not indulge into any war or into any measure which would be against that religion. Because the religion of the people influence the people, and the people influence the government.
No, I don't agree with that.
I was just going to wind up the discussion.
After all, in a democracy, you see, you must have religious freedom and equality for religious opportunity. And there must be as many religions as possible, so that you have different points of view.
But I did not say
Difference is the sense of democracy.
You didn't understand what I meant. I said that if when there is, I don't say, when there is simply one religion, I do not mind what sort of religion it is, but one religion, well, it gives a strength to the nation, which it would not have.
That's a good note to end on. We're going to have to carry this on. I'm sorry, there isn't time, Matani, but we are going to have more programs. You've raised plenty of fundamental, really fundamental issues. Until next week then, at the same time, this is Helen Hyatt Waller.